Okay, I think we can start. I also, first of all, I thank all the presenters here, especially those who are connected from Italy, I suppose, no? And thank you for participating. This is a workshop that we proposed in the framework of ICCSA since many years ago. Sustainability performance assessment was a platform we decided to propose to a researcher and practitioner in order to discuss the results about the different approach and processes based on sustainability principle applied on urban and territorial issues in order to understand how the performance of sustainability could be reached in different cases and in different applications. I think that this idea is still actual in the debate concerning our disciplines, so I think we can start with the discussion. And I anticipate a little change in the program because the first paper who will be presented is the paper by Francesca Perrone and Rachele Gatto, Ecomuseo dell'Acqua, an indivisible unit of strategic sustainable planning. This little change is functional in order to connect the next two presentations that refers to the same research project that we are developing at the University of Basilicata. The presenter is Rachele Gatto, and I share the screen and the presentation for all of us. Okay. I think it works. Yes? Can you confirm from online? I think it works. Okay. Okay, you can.
Good morning to everybody. Today we're going to talk about the Computational dell'Acqua and Invisible Strategic Sustainable Planning. This is our research work conducted with Francesca Perrone, where I represent an experience of territorial design based on new NUA principle implementation. So what is the new Urban Agenda 2030 is a line guide to promote sustainability in planning practice and policymakers, for policymakers. Where there are 4 dimensions of the sustainability. The first 3 are so common, so I know that we always listen, talk about social sustainability, economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, but the introduction of spatial sustainability represents a new form to perceive the equality and sustainable development through the territorial lens in addition. This line guide is a document that is structured in 2 parts, many parts. The first part is talk about the sustainable principles, such as empowerment of marginalized group, gender equality. So it's targeted to some group of people and or questions such as job creation and livelihood or biodiversity. But the main research question is how to scale, how to bring this principle in the planning practice at the local level. So how to manage all this, how to implement this principle in the projects, infrastructural project or tourism development scenario and so on. For this reason, we select as for an experiment 3 new principles, such as planning for migrants, job creation and livelihood, and biodiversity ecosystem preservation. in order to explore methods for downscaling the neural principle at the local level, addressing the strategic concern to specific groups. Um, and each principle is structured in some actions that are often generic and uh, wider. For example, linking with growth sector like infrastructure and renewable energy is an action of job creation and livelihood, or accessibility that encompass public facilities and streets. Um, the case study. The contribution focuses on trails and itineraries, primarily of a naturalistic nature where recreation activities can be carried out, allowing people to interact with nature. We are in a small in a naturalist in a park that is located in the south of Basilicata region in Italy. Um, so the context is primarily dominated by nature. So there is inland rural areas. So the there is not is a low density context, and we try to identify the requirements for the suitability of the location to experiment this type of downscaling of principle. And we divided we structured the selection in two types of requirements. The first one is extrinsic requirements, so where the proximity to popular areas, availability of parking, accessible public services, and informative points are points of that characterize the whole area, and services, a kind of services for the users and the, the target users that we selected for. And the intrinsic requirements are recognizable accessible point, trade morphology, landscape quality, cultural heritage components, and furnishing elements to enhance usability. The main goal is a comprehensive approach, of course, to ensuring free access for everyone and addressing the specific needs of the locality and its residents. But in this case, once the area was selected for this kind of requirements, the main purpose of the strategy was the design of an eco-museum as a participatory practice for the enhancement of material and immaterial cultural heritage, developed and by an organized subject expression of a local community in the perspective of sustainable development. So the museum figures as a strategy itself, so not as just only a function of services that could be useful into the territories. There are some key components that characterize the sustainability of this type of functions, such as population and heritage set of components that community recognize and promote. So the participation of local stakeholders represents an element that could be useful to develop a local prosperity scenario. Um, so emerged, but the requirements for the selection of the case of the area and the new principle that we select for the development of the entire project seems to be powerful to achieve sustainability in terms of qualitative analysis um, and positive scenario for sustainable development, but we recognize that the limits of this kind of approach rely on the absence of contextual analysis. So there is a lack of stakeholder analysis and the type of users. The principles are too generic. For example, um, for the structure of the local realities, and um, this type of pollution occurs a lack of monitoring intervention to to try to achieve this type of goals that the main goals that was sustainable development of the territories. So the weakness that underlying are the generic approach. The approach is too still generic for that is involved in the actual planning practice, and future path could be integration of index and representation of future scenario based on quantitative analysis integrated with stakeholder analysis and human principles.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. If there are any question, any remarks, also from the audience connected online. Okay, we can go on with our two presentations that are generated in a similar framework, in the similar research framework, which is a project called Tech for You, funded in Italy by the National Recovery Funds program. And in this research, my units works on the topic of tourism ecosystem as innovative concept in order to include both strategic perspective for tourism development and the advanced tool in order to produce territorial analysis suitable for describing local trends and to assess the impacts of such action at regional level. The first presentation is still by Rachele Gatto, who will discuss the paper entitled Enhancing Vultures Territorial Assets Through Tourism Ecosystems for Spatial Development. You can open the presentation and yes, you can start.
Okay, so as Francesco said before, this is a part of a wider research project, and this part that we will present is mainly based on the analysis of the problems in the planning cycles and the architectural theoretical model that stands out of the future development paths. So as we just introduced before, the main objective of the strategies based on tourism um, are establishing new value chains, integrating local actors and competence in rural areas, and stimulate the tourist demand in order to exploit territorial resources. So the result that is expected is a territorial sustainable development process. And if we take in account the key phases of the investment cycle, uh, we can we can see that in the first phase, the common approach is to adopt a long-term strategic vision supported by public policies. And the next step is the identification of territorial values in specific contexts in underdeveloped sites or abandoned sites. Then, in the phase of appraisal and project selection, the Lighthouse project, based mainly on infrastructure such as the Museum that we said before, seems like to be the example that the successful example that could be imported in a specific context, and we and in the phase of monitoring implementation, in Italy, we assist a way of reports the successful strategies or not, based mainly on economic impact through income index, without the a view that consider the project inside the development scenario. And in the phase of ex post reviews and assess registers, mainly is quite common to assist some analysis that are based on socioeconomic and structural trends. For example, in Italy, recently the Italian Ministry of Culture distributing major investment, about 20 million for each region, in order to orient tourism toward more sustainable flows by promoting visits to less known places. In Basilicata, the cultural areas that is quite, you can say rural, cultural area is the beneficiary of this kind of funds. How we structure these strategies? There are 13 interventions explained in a kind of brochure that are aimed at empowering tourism offer without a monitoring system or territorial analysis context focused on the capability of the spaces, and without an investment planning that everybody can access. The criticalities in planning and risk that emerge encompass lack of coordinated intervention project, absence of evaluation structure system, lack of territorial vision, low participation of stakeholder in planning process, and inadequate monitoring system. This entails externalities such as ineffective of public spending, abandonment of infrastructure due to lack of demand and management, and discharge of operators due to the construction of a realistic scenario that is not tailored for them. So the research project is structured in 3 phases, in 3 steps. The entire research project. The first one is the identification of a specialized tourist system through the the construction of taxonomy based on three main ontological classes. So the aim of the first phase is the release of framework aimed at structuring a comprehensive understanding of spatial complexity in the definition of and manageable tourism system. Because in the literature, for example, and the urban field, there is a kind of lack of knowledge about the intersection between territorial dynamics and the tourism systems. Both are complex systems, so it's very difficult to trace in some cases the phenomena related to. The second phase is the, the construction of spatial data infrastructure and selection of indicators to assess sustainability in the local system, providing an analytical perspective based on big data, tourism, local system, tourism specialization. And the third phase is, and the last one, is to provide digital platform in the GISA super system in order to establish a robust foundation for the effective decision making and planning in the realm of territorial scale tourism. So the first phase is the construction of these main ontological classes. So starting from studies on tourism mainly related to the field of management, we search for the identities that are traceable in the territorial system in order to spatially reconstruct the value of the tourism chain. The tourism chain is the intersection between the tourism supply and the tourism demand. The tourism supplies is defined as the set of resources and activities intended to satisfy tourism demand in a certain area. So the unit of destination area represents the cluster of attractors, services, and reachability, and are the micro scale of the tourism system. While the tourism demand is defined as the demand for goods and services related to leisure time consumed in a place that other than that of usual residence, so to stay at least one night. And the tourism ecosystem is involved to destination area tourism system and stakeholder analysis in order to define identify the operators and the people who are involved in the specific tourism supply chain. So, what is a destination area? As I said before, is the microfine scale of the analysis and encompass attractors, services, and reachability. This kind of the definition of destination area depends on some literature review that we conducted in the previously phase. And on the right, there is an example of this kind of attractor services and reachability that are present in rural areas. The specialized tourism system is defined the network of tourist destination area that are specialized in, for example, cultural tourism, nature-based tourism, wine tourism, and so reconstruct the itinerary of the value chain of the specific category of tourism, and the stakeholder analysis taking account the local stakeholder such as the operators of B&B and association, and so who is directly involved in the services, in the type of service that we selected before. This type of classes allow to introduce a multidimensional territorial analysis and targeted stakeholder intervention in order to balance public investment. For example, in the case study in rural areas, in the case study in rural areas that we showed before, there is that, for example, a lot of attraction in the cluster that we identify, or an accommodation, while the reachability at 15% compared to the attraction and services is really low. But it's not, of course, this kind on this structure, and model that we presented here. We are going to develop the index that are more articulate in order to assess the sustainability. So the tourism ecosystem approach framework provides a structure to guide the sustainable tourism in the development of public investment decisions, and it represents a replicable model to other cases.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. We have some questions to discuss.
So, one doubt.
Yeah.
When we speak this kind of sustainability, when we check with populations, we check with everything. For me, it's very nice. But there is something that I can see, but maybe it's done. Because when we are impacting some territory, maybe we had a corridor from animals, wild animals, and maybe we are just in group, interacting with that and changing something else. I don't know if it's taken into account or not, or if it's not here, but in the other kind of sustainability.
You want to add something?
Sorry the question, but it's a question that
It's
is
an ecological interaction
Yes,
between
because-
natural species and other interventions.
Yes, because in Portugal and in all Iberia region, we have a problem now with wolves and lynx, because economic European Union is thinking in just cut the policy of the protection of wolves. It's very strange to me. With the idea of economics sustainability, because it's not economics sustainability. That's why I was asking in this kind of situation.
The main goal of this research is to provide comprehensive vision on the territories, taking into account different issues and questions that could emerge at the local level, and our role is just to provide a structure, a model, then to deal with these kind of issues, of course.
Okay.
So, but of course, I know that it's not so clear, because maybe because it's missing a part that is part of the future development, of course. But for example, just to answer to this question, the problem of the ecological part related to the limbs of the animals and transit in such areas where is the trail, where it's an adventure park and so on, um, is a question that emerged from the point of view of the perception or from data. Mm?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the first point. The second point is that if it emerged from perspective, then the stakeholder analysis that is made at the end of the to a specialized system contribute contribute in the global vision to trace the issues that are missing.
Yeah.
But if we take if the emerge of this type of issue from data perspective, for example, the count of limbs in that area are the double of the last year, then it emerged from a data perspective.
Yeah.
This is the main point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we can go on with the next presentation. We have Simone Guerrero, who deal with tourism asset and spatial complexity analyzed through graph structured data analysis. Okay.
Okay, so good afternoon everyone. I'm Simone Corrado, I'm a student at the University of Basilicata, and I do my PhD in engineering for innovation and sustainable development. And today I want to share with you the analytical approach that we use in we implemented into the Tech for You project, the Recovery Fund project. So, but first of all, I want to set the scene. We always see map like that when we map like land consumption or population decline or how Italian votes in the last election. And what we can say that there is not random process that we are mapping. There are some old spot or cold spot into this map. So there are some geographical determinants behind the distribution of this data. So we really want to know how these phenomena arise and what are the processes behind this distribution. So we can map these data are only the visible part. This is the spatial data we can measure and we can map it. And we know that there are some spatial associations between these data. So just some geographical determinants. But to identify what is the processes behind this spatial distribution, we try to we have to have a model that it's able to infer the spatial processes. We can only see the output of the processes, but the spatial processes is the invisible part. We are in the era of the artificial intelligence. Everyone said like the magazine like Nature, Science, and so on. Some authors declare that this is the end of the theory and that the last makes the scientific method obsolete. The message passing is that everything can be solved by AI, and even more tricky that anyone can solve any problem with artificial intelligence. It's like a computer vision model that identifies part of doctor that is able to identify Africa just by satellite data. And this is very tricky. But the current model, vanilla model for computer science, has a problem that doesn't get semantics. So if we ask a model to identify a dot behind a gate shadow, it's identified like a tagger. And even worse, that the model doesn't take into account the physics law. So if we ask a generative algorithm to generate a coffee cup windows, we see that the coffee doesn't pour out. But the truth is that somewhere in the behind that is artificial intelligence can support the knowledge process, but not completely replace it. And as presented by Catherine Creel, models without data are fantasy, but data without model are chaos. So this new this new method, a paradigm shift into the scientific discovery. And if we in this picture is depicted the method supporting the scientific discovery, and we know that the theory-based model uses very few data, but rely a lot on assumption and on user expertise. But full data-driven approach uses a lot of data, but not taking into account the semantic and the context. So the new method supporting scientific discovery is the theory-guided data science that is in the middle, and it's a combination of data-driven approach and theory-based model. Here I just presented some challenges and opportunities of this knowledge-guided data science. In spatial analysis, we have we know that the relationships between data change a lot if from region from another. We also know that processes are dependent on, are scale dependent and temporal dependent. And we have a problem because we have data sparsity and we have very few geospatial data, labeled geospatial data. So the opportunity is a knowledge-guided loss function. So we can make some constriction to the model by the loss function, or maybe we can design some knowledge-guided architecture of the model, or we can implement some synthetic data that we know how to implement this data. In urban and regional context, we talk about GAI, Geospatial Artificial Intelligence. Geospatial Artificial Intelligence tries to implement a spatial explicit model. This model use a lot of geospatial data, the computational power, but also taking into account the spatial relationship between the data and like the geographic law, like the Tobler-Fritz law that say that the near thing are more related than the distant thing. And with the geospatial artificial intelligence, so it's not just put some flavor artificial intelligence or geospatial big data, but it's to implement some spatial constraint into data. So it's spatial explicit model. And with this approach, we are able to perform a better planning support system for decision maker and for scientists. So, okay, we think that GI is useful in all the critical steps of sustainable land development, like exploring the systemic complexity, because we know that territory is not, it's a complex system where environment, governance, education are different systems interconnected, and with the classic topographical approach is not we are not able to take into account the relationship between different systems. The model can take into account context value. As presented here is a publication on natural sustainability. The access to different infrastructure, like natural infrastructure, social infrastructure, or institutional infrastructure, differ a lot if we analyze our rural context and inter-urban area or urban area. And even more interesting that with scenario analysis, we are able to take into account the spatial impact the spatial impact of our action, of our policy, and take into account the economic, social, environment, and economic impact. We in the project for you, we believe that the graph representation data is very useful to analyze the territory, because this type of approach is a relational model. So if we consider into the node there are where the data are generated, and on the edges of the graph we are able to take into account the relation into the system. And even more interesting that with the compound graph we are able to not only analyze the inter-system relationship, but also the intra-system relationship, but also the inter-system relationship. So we can analyze which node it's more have more connection at different systems. So this is the approach that we want to implement. This is a GNN, so graph neural network. There is a problem with geospatial data. We have very few good labeled data, so we always have to rely on unsupervised approach. But all we know that a supervised approach is difficult to assess and the reliability of the unsupervised approach is very complex. So with this approach of encoded decoder architecture, we apply a self-supervised approach. So on very few labeled data, we are able to train a model, and into the encoded decoder approach work with an input data. This is the graph data input, then into the latent space, the zeta part of this image. This is low dimensionality data. So into this type of data, we are encoding all the information, but also the relationship within the data, because in input we have the graph data that we perform, and with this approach we can make some model like node classification or graph classification, or even future link prediction between the data. So this is the case study. This is the preliminary result of an area in the south in Basilicata region, in the southern part of Italy. This is the Vulture-Emerfese area. It's in the northern part of the region, and this is a pilot project for the Tech4U that it's called SDI for Tourism Ecosystem Innovation and Development based on cultural heritage. So as Rachele said, on the taxonomy that Rachele identified, we try to map and assess the tourism ecosystem into this type. So first of all, we retrieve data by Google API places. So we have 160 tourism attraction. Then we have a restaurant and accommodation. This is the point. So this is a point of interest on this area. Then we perform the net triangulation of this area to identify the graph network, and only between the tourist related services. So only between restaurant and accommodation. In this with this approach, we are able to identify communities of tourism related services. We weighted this graph by the travel cost. So in this model, we can take into account the morphological distance of the point on the territory, and not only the Euclidean distance between them. So after we identify the community with the Louvain community detection, this is an approach to extract the community structure of a network, optimizing the modularity. This is the equation used in this approach, and this equation is a function of the sum of the weight of the link between the data, and it's right on the sides of the graph. So this number is the community. This is okay. This is in blue, and in red are represented the accommodation and the restaurants, and only this point, in this blue point, are the community, and the community is identified by this approach, and then it's mapped using the centrography approach. So we identify the center of this community with a centrographic approach, and then we want to analyze the spatial relationship between this data. So we have data of rating, Google rating, and the number of rating for each point of interest. So we map the loading capacity in the accommodations in the community, because this is intended like the push factor in the relation model, and we analyze the rating of the attractiveness of the tourism attractor with a Bayesian average considering the rating and the number of ratings. So in red is mapped the tourism attractiveness, and in blue the lodging capacity. So this is the result of the spatial interaction model. In particular, we implemented a competitive destination approach developed by Fonteringham. And with this approach, we are able to identify the potential flux between community and tourism attraction. So we are able to know which is the community that is more attractive, and which is the attractor that is more attractive, where are located the community more related to this attractor. And sorry, because it's not very clear, the image, but in the northern part there is a castle, and maybe this is a castle, and you can see that there is the highest value of tourism attractiveness, and also have the highest capacity of accommodation. So this area is prone to tourism, and this is a well-known tourist area. So this is just the preliminary approach, but we believe that this type of model is useful to analyze the tourism ecosystem at the final scale, so for the destination area, as presented by Raquel. And on this type of data, we want to perform a bipartite graph. So with a bipartite graph, we are able to map the relationship, the graph between the community and the attractor. So this is the input graph that we want to implement into this approach when we add some other attributes on the edges, like how many tourists come to this hotel, how many from which nation is the tourist, and so on. So this is all. This is some concluding remark, because we think that this approach is very useful. Graph approach is very useful to analyze the structure underneath the processes in the territory, and we believe that AI enhanced geospatial approach is very useful. Is needed to take into account when we talk about decision support system or planning support system. So that's all, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Simone. I also ask for any question. So online, if someone wants to. Okay, Simone, thank you. Now we move to the online questions. And we have Sara Bianchi, Anna Richiedei, and Maurizio Tia with the paper titled A Selection of Sustainability Parameters for a Comprehensive Assessment of Urban Transformations. Sara, you will... Hello. Okay.
Yes, good afternoon and good morning to everybody, because here is morning. And I try to share my screen.
Yes.
Okay, can you see?
Okay, it works, perfect.
Okay. Hello to everybody. I'm Sara Bianchi from the University of Brescia in Italy, and I'm in the third year of my PhD program on sustainable development and climate change that is released by the use of PIPIA. And now today I want to share with you one of the steps of my research activity that concern the selection of sustainability parameters that are indicators for proposing a comprehensive assessment tool for urban transformations. And for urban transformation, I mean in particular the urban implementation plans for urban regeneration areas. As the New Urban Agenda claims, urbanization is a powerful tool for sustainable development, And this is thanks for the high potential in the reduction of the greenhouse gases emission that cities can lead compared to the business.
Sorry. Probably
Yes.
we don't see the slideshow. We see only PowerPoint. Okay.
No, I have
I don't know
started
if you have a
presentation.
presentation. Okay, you can start the presentation now.
Do you see the presentation
No, we see only PowerPoint.
not well?
The problem is the presentation.
I haven't understood, sorry.
We don't see the slideshow. We see only the slide open in the PowerPoint. Probably you have two
No,
desktops.
I have started the presentation view, but I don't know why you don't see it.
Let's try to share your screen, not PowerPoint. Share your screen in
Okay.
the option that you have on your. Okay.
Yes.
Share the full screen, not the problem.
Yes. Maybe it works better.
Okay, now we can go in presentation mode in PowerPoint.
Now it works? Yes.
Go to PowerPoint, okay? Start presentation.
Maybe it's a bit
Okay,
little bit late.
It works. It works.
Okay, perfect. So we were speaking about the potential of cities in reducing the greenhouse gases emission, as the IPCC report claims, thanks to the ideal sustainable shape of the cities that cities could have, that is the compact shape, the resource efficient and workable one. But how we can apply this into the practice? So if urbanization is a tool for sustainable development, which are the tools for a sustainable urban development? I can say that there is a high level of fragmentation of different tools that can be applied at different scales. And focusing on the urban scale, we can add also that these tools are very sectorial. For proposing a comprehensive assessment, I start to look at the indicators since all of these tools use them. Indicators can be used for measuring or for evaluating urban sustainability. In the first case, as a measurement tool, they compare the different performance, for instance, of territories in reaching some kind of goals. And a good example of this is the monitoring of the Sustainable Development Goal of the 2030 Agenda. And these monitoring activities is performed from the global scale to the national and regional scale. It should be performed also at the city scales, but in this case, there is very often a lack of data to do it properly. And it doesn't apply at the urban scale. The second case is the use of indicator as an evaluation tools. And in this case, the indicators are used to compare the performance of different alternative choices within the decision-making process. And a good application of this is the assessment of the sustainability of urban project, and it is applied at the urban scale. So we can say that different tools for urban sustainability are applied at different scales. Here I have added also the building scale project, the scale of the building project, for which there are also other kind of tools, also commonly recognized for the sustainability assessment. But for my research, I'm focusing mainly on the scale of urban project. So the local scale of neighborhood that also other author has highlighted as the most efficient spatial scale in order to monitor and improve sustainability concept. In this scale, however, there is not a common framework recognized for evaluating sustainability. And this is why I'm starting to investigate and so collecting and selecting indicators from the literature review that are in particular used as an evaluation tool for urban projects. And these are the main questions that I have addressed, that are if the sustainability dimensions are equally investigated within these frameworks, if the indicators are more qualitative or quantitative, so if they are more descriptive in nature or based on numbers, and finally, if there are standardized and comparable measures looking in particular to the international global framework of the SDGs. The methodology that I have applied is divided into 4 steps. In the first step, I have collected the indicators available from the literature review in an extensive database. So I have found more than 600 initial indicators that I have collected with all these kind of data that I have listed below. In the second step, I have tried to classify these indicators collected on the basis of some homogeneous characteristics that are in particular the sustainability dimensions and intra-dimensions according to the particle bottom line. Secondly, in the type of data, so if there are quantitative, qualitative, or if this information is not available. Thirdly, the feasibility of data collection compared to our scale, the spatial scale of our studies, and the particular topic of urban regeneration areas. And finally, I have added these 2 final aspects that are very important in order to promote the comparability between different frameworks at the different scales. So I have looked at the relevance of indicator to the Sustainable Development Goals, and finally the correspondence between the indicators from the literature and the official statistical measures proposed by the statistical institutions at the national level. The third step has been the analysis, so we will see some main findings of the analysis in the coming slides. And finally, I have proposed a selection of these indicators based on 3 main criteria for the selection. So I have considered only the indicators for which the type of data has been known, so the qualitative or qualitative one, only the feasible data to be collected, and I have excluded all the duplicated indicators, or I have grouped the similar measures into one. And finally, I have selected a set of 134 indicators. Here there are some findings concerning the pre-selection, so considering the entire database. And in this graph, we can say the temporal phase of application of different indicators. So I have looked at if they are applied at the real beginning or at the final steps of the planning process and the building realization processes. And what we can see is that a greater amount of indicators are applied in the literature at the ex-ante step or at the final steps, and only few indicators are expected to be applied in a dynamic way during all the process or more than one step. Regarding the feasibility of data collection, we can underline that almost half of the indicators are not feasible to be collected because they require data that are not measurable or not available or useless for our scope, so for the spatial scale that we have focusing on. And regarding the post-selection for these graphs refers only to the 134 indicators, we can see that there is not a well-balanced distribution of the indicator found and selected from the literature between the different sustainability dimensions. here I have considered the quadruple bottom line, so not only the environmental, social, and economic dimension, but also the institutional one related to the governance. And there is a higher quantity of environmental and social indicator compared to the others. And also there is a higher quantity of quantitative indicators compared to the qualitative one. But at this scale of the neighborhood redevelopment, all these indicators are really important. Finally, we can say the analysis and the comparison with the framework of the United Nations agenda, and how we can expect it. There is a higher number of indicators linked to the SDGs number 11, that is the one related to sustainable cities, and only a few amount related to the SDGs number 16, related to justice and strong institutions. And this is in particular because of the target for the accessibility of services that is well investigating in the assessment of urban project. This table shows the correspondence between indicators coming from the literature and the official statistical frameworks proposed at the national level for Italy, so the ones from the ISTAT, that is the Italian Institute of Statistics for Italy, related to the SDGs. And I have proposed three main groups. The ones is the one for the absence of connections. The second one is the case in which I have found similar indicators in terms of similar phenomena monitored, but not. This similarity cannot be found in the measurement unit used. And the final group is the indicators to be downscaled. That means that both the indicators analyze the same phenomena with the same measurement unit, but they are applied at a different spatial scale, so they need to be downscaled. And only a few amounts of indicator could be substituted by similar or indicator to be downscaled from the framework of the ISTAT SDGs. Here I have reported some examples. So in the similar group, the indicator from the ISTAT SDGs framework more linked to the indicator found in the research literature are the following. These are the main linked. So they're related to the access to services, to the soil sealing and consumption, and to the impact of urban green areas within the urbanized areas. As I have mentioned before, they are measured using different measurement units. For instance, in the access for the services, here is a percentage of families that declare difficulties in accessing services, while in the indicator observed and collected, it is commonly measured as a distance in terms of space, so in meters, or in terms of time by foot to reach a particular kind of services. Regarding the last group, so the indicator to be downscaled, the more similar one, these are the three topics better linked that are related to the water supply, even if this topic is different to assess in advance, to estimate in advance. And then the circular use of material and the nitrogen dioxide emissions. To conclude, respect to the initial question, we can say that the sustainability dimensions are not equally monitored. As we have seen, there is a preponderance of environmental and social indicators. And there is also a preponderance of quantitative data on the qualitative ones. But considering both is very important because they helps us in developing also, for example, social aspect. And I want to stress also that this heterogeneity in the kind of measures are important to be considered for the final aggregation step for the evaluation procedures to be run. And finally, even if a small amount of data are directly linked to the official statistics already in use at the national level. It is important to encourage this comparability between measures in order to help comparability between different scales, even if using sometimes redundancy. Here, the list of the references I have used for this presentation, and I'm available for some questions if you have. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Sara. Thanks. If there are any questions here from the connected colleagues? I would like you to ask some clarification more than question. But finally, I think it is important, it is useful to have a structured database, of indicators that we can select, we can adopt, we can use in specific topic. But finally, your application will be on a single city, on a similar group of cities, or different group of cities in Italy, for instance, or you want to compare European cities in order to assess the level of sustainability. Please clarify this point because it was
Okay. Yes. Thanks for the question. First of all, I have collected these measures considering the European context. And mainly the developed countries. So, the analysis should be applied to a wider scale, a wider context compared to our place of studies. However, I'm aware that the declination of the sustainability concept can be very different from context to context, and also in relation to the dimension of the urban transformations. For these reasons, I would like to propose a kind of abacus, depending for the use of these indicators, because 134 are still too much to be applied in the practical reality of urban planning. And so I want to find a kind of abacus depending on the different context and different application. Secondly, I have focusing during these years on the use of this measure within the decision-making process. So I have not yet applied them to a case studies, but I've tried to look at the formal implication of taking conclusion in the decision problem based on some kind of indicators. And I'm trying to analyze how to propose this tool to public administration. So I have studied more the decision process and how to fit these kind of measures into it, instead of comparing different application in real case studies.
Okay, I think that the case study will show effectively the usability of such a list and how the selection criteria will be explicit in order to better understand a specific
Yes,
case.
and also if I can add another things is that for running the evaluation, we need also to consider the values and the preferences of each decision maker. And this could have could be very different depending on the context. This is why I don't want to say that one common framework can be adopted by all different territories, but we need then to decline the use of these measures in each territories to be aligned to the values of the decision maker, but that is the values of the society in particular. It's very site specific, and it's difficult to apply a common overview, a common framework to each specific local area. So I have investigated more this aspect.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Congratulations.
Thanks to you.
Okay, we can go on with the final presentation. We have Federico Falasca, if you connected, he's the presenter. And the paper is Supporting Sustainability, the case study of the Abruzzo Region Sustainable Development Strategy. Federico, the floor is yours. You can share the full screen and the presentation will work.
Thank you, Professor Scorza. Can you see the full presentation?
Yes, it works. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Federico Falasca, a PhD candidate from the University of L'Aquila, and Supporting Sustainability, the case study of the Abruzzo Regional Sustainable Development Strategy is the title of the contribute I present today. So this study focuses on the steps that supported the integration of sustainable development objectives into the Abruzzo Regional Sustainable Development Strategy. This work has been conducted together with Carmen Ulisse, one of my colleagues, and the professor Alessandro Marucci. So today I will try to give you an overview of what our department, specifically the Planeco research group, made to support all the preliminary actions and some important topics to be introduced into the Abruzzo Regional Sustainable Development Strategy. With the objective of shifting the world to a more sustainable and resilient path, the United Nations in 2015 proposed the so-called 2030 Agenda, which contained a series of sustainable development goals, a total of 17 sustainable development goals, associated with several targets, a total of 169 targets, through which reach a more sustainable policies and economies. In Italy, the Sustainable Development Goals have become the objectives upon which the Italian National Strategy for Sustainable Development has been set up. This strategy specifically coordinates national and local initiatives, promoting collaborations between governmental and non-governmental bodies. The national strategy itself envisaged in the next 12 months of its adoption, also the adoption of the regional sustainable development strategy that nowadays are not still fully implemented at a national scale. Some regions have their regional strategy for sustainable development, others are still in an ongoing process of implementing these strategies. So the case study, the study area, is the Abruzzo region, which is situated in central Italy and extends for over 10,000 square kilometers. The Abruzzo region is also one of the Italian regions with the highest percentage of protected areas, 35.8% of protected areas. Also it has one of the first national parks ever instituted in our country, which dates back to 1922. Nevertheless, the achievement of some of the 2030 Agenda Sustainable Development Goals is still far from being reached due to the isolation of the protected areas inside the region. Added to this, there are the most recent calamitous events, such as earthquakes, that characterize central Italy. In the right side of the slide, you can see the effects of the earthquakes that occurred several years ago. So this led to the need of change in the development paradigms that historically characterized these areas. Reconstruction, resilience, and adaptation must be now the new paradigms upon which structure sustainability policies. So to do this, the proposed work focuses on the main project and tools that the Planeco research group set up to support the regional strategy for sustainable development. In this presentation, I will deepen mainly two projects, the Indicators project and the Sostenere project. Each of them has been characterized by several tools and analysis to support the regional strategy. Starting with the Indicators project, the Department of Civil Engineering from the University of L'Aquila and the Planeco, specifically the Planeco Research Group, undertook to produce the positioning of the regional planning tools concerning the National Strategy for Sustainable Development and the 2030 Agenda's SDGs. This is one of the preliminary actions to support the regional strategy for sustainable development. The correspondence between the SDGs and the regional planning tools has been evaluated through a coherence matrix that you can see here, that identified the links between regional planning programming, regional investment plans, and forecasts envisaged by the National Strategy for Sustainable Development. Here you can see 3 out of 5 P's upon which the agenda has been set: people, planet, and partnership. It is missing peace and prosperity. Coherence has been set as direct, indirect, or uncertain. And this kind of evaluation has been based on the more or less explicit references between the single plan action and the 2030 agenda and national strategy objectives. There is also the non-comparability option, whether the actions and the objectives weren't at all corresponding. The second tool that has been set in the Indicators project has been the Indicators database. This kind of tool has been previously followed by a survey of sustainability indicators already used by various public or private entities nationwide. And in this phase, indicators have also been retrieved on the Italian institutional websites, such as the National Institute of Statistics and the National Italian Institute for Environmental Protection and Research. It has also been considered other sources, such as several sectoral tools that you can see in a brief list I reported in the right side of the slide. So all these sources contributed to compose the Indicators database that can be used to support local authorities to align their plans and programs to the sustainability objectives set by the National Strategy for Sustainable Development, which has been based upon the 2030 Agenda's Sustainable Development Goals. This procedure structured, the procedure structured through this collaboration also allowed to dispose of a tool under which regional planning can update itself concerning these fundamental themes with an acceptable commitment. Mainly in the monitoring phases. Through the indicator database, you can see how changes and actions are being undertaken through time, and if necessary, change them or update them. Secondary, there is the project, the Sostenere project. The word sostenere stands for sustainability, resilience, adaptation for the protection of ecosystems and physical reconstruction in central Italy. So this project has the objective of promoting specifically the implementation in the Abruzzo region of two specific sustainable development goals, the 11th and the 15th sustainable development goals, which are respectively referred to sustainable cities and the protection and restoration of terrestrial ecosystems. The objective of formulating a series of guidelines to support the process for the regional implementation of the National Strategy for Sustainable Development has then been articulated in the Sostenere project through 3 key points that you can see here and that compose the Sostenere project. The indicators console, which is different from the indicators database, and later we will see why. The ecological network guidelines and the planning tool Mosaic. So starting from the planning tool Mosaic, this is the first tool presented in the in our presentation, but it is not in order of importance. They are all equally important in the Sostenere project. This kind of tool fits into a series of criticalities affecting not only the local municipalities in the Abruzzo region, but also the municipalities of the entire country. Indeed, Italy is a country in which often transformative dynamics are mainly driven by local authorities without a superordinate strategic control. So these conditions do not favor the adoption of some measures aimed at improving environmental and urban quality and conditions, whose implementation sometimes must take place in the upper planning levels and at a scales that go beyond municipal boundaries, local boundaries. So to support the enhancement of these issues, the Sostenere project established a technical device called the planning tool Mosaic. I'm sorry. It is composed of an homogeneous framework for municipal planning tools contents. So we focused on the contents of each municipal planning tool. The idea is to provide every municipality with a uniform data set about what is envisaged from local planning in the areas under study. Following the guidelines provided by the Sostenere project, the information that need to be put into the single municipal planning tool are the ones that you can see listed in the central part of the slide. Planning tool type, municipality name, national municipal ID code, planning tool type, I'm sorry, there is a typo, zonal typology, technical implementation standards, and standardized zoning. So together with the single zoning decided by the municipality, there is also a column reporting the standardized zoning. This allows to rely on a common indication of what each zone refers to, allowing the different municipalities to dialogue. Of course, this kind of information can be also updated with the regular time frames in order to have a start condition, as you see in the central part of the slide, and at a regional level to monitor the progress of the sustainability goals, as well as to rely on a more planning effectiveness and flexibility. At the municipal level, there are several advantages, such as the implemented planning forecast, the failed planning forecast, and residual transformative capacity, which can be seen in every municipality. Then there are the ecological network guidelines, which are the second tool presented in the Sostenere project. In this regard, the project has developed the guidelines for regional ecological network implementation. Specifically, an evaluation criterion for ecosystem occlusion of infrastructures has been proposed. This is because between protected areas, passages that connect different habitats need to be managed with structural interventions. For this region, the preliminary phase of recognition of large road infrastructures, such as motorways and railways, is fundamental. These elements are to be considered the main infrastructural barriers which prevent the connection between the main protected areas. In these cases, habitat connectivity subsists only when the motorway and the railway passes through a tunnel or a viaduct. So at the same time, the main infrastructural barriers reveal the limits of the regional macro districts, which in the image in the right side of the slide, you can see as blue lines. So these are the boundaries that need to be attentioned when working with the connection between districts and protected areas in order to facilitate these connections. Together with a snapshot of the actual criticalities set by the infrastructures and local planning tools that we have seen before through the planning tool Mosaic, it is necessary also to quantitatively and qualitatively describe urban settlements and the dynamics to which they are subject and which they nourish. So the planning tool Mosaic and the ecological network guidelines are two fundamental tools that need to work together in order to evaluate how protected areas and ecologically important areas are connected and how much they risk to be isolated in order to promote connection between them, enhancing and protecting biodiversity values. The last tool to deepen the aspects of territorial dynamics is the indicators console. And this aspect has been deepened through this tool based on the indicators engineering, a discipline that designs sets of indicators capable of capturing and describing any changes in land use and other territorial dynamics, assuring interoperability and transparency of information. The indicators console has been set up starting from several experiences that took place in the last decades across the entire country, using indicators that were scientifically well structured and that had a wide use. So the console contains two macro categories of indicators: settlement model and dynamic indicators, and settlement pressure environmental system indicators. This has been made in order to provide a summary framework of how much the dynamics inside the natural and the anthropic systems, how these two dynamics interact each other in order to have a monitoring of the sustainability of transformations. The information needed to be put inside each indicator belonging to these two categories are listed in the left side of the slide: the name of the index, its description, technical restitution, if it is to be calculated at a municipal level, at a provincial level, or at a regional level, as well as the parameters, the data input necessary to calculate it, where to bring the informations, and also the update frequency that is necessary to monitor sustainability of the transformations, as well as the correspondence with the DeepSeer model, whether these indicators can be used to describe drivers, pressures, state, impact, or response according to the DeepSeer model. Both these categories of indicators can be jointly used together to monitor changes in land dynamics in a certain time frame, considering also the initial measures as the reference status and comparing them with the changes in values during different scales of time. So, as I said before, all these tools and analysis have converged into the Abruzzo region strategy for sustainable development, which you can see here in the center part of the slide. Mainly the indicators database and the coherence metrics from the indicators project belong to the third chapter of the regional strategy, and the ecological network, planning tool Mosaic, and indicators console belong to the fourth, to the fifth, and to the sixth chapters of the regional strategy. Thank you for your attention.
Federico, thank you. If there are any questions from the audience. Okay. Federico, I just some curiosity. Probably you can integrate with additional information. So your work is finalized to the Abruzzo region, or do you think that such sets of information, of indicators that you set up are replicable in other contexts, and under which conditions?
The indicators database and the indicators console have been both set up based on nationwide and international experiences, based upon indicators that are well known to work very well for a specific description of some conditions. Um, they are replicable also in other contexts, not also for the Abruzzo region. But in order to be replicable, they need to be introduced in a correct, in an appropriate manner inside the regional, provincial, and local administrative units. So you have also to consider that they describe quite general conditions about urban settlements and natural systems. So they are replicable, but the results that they provide quite be very different from considering different contexts, territorial contexts.
And what about the time in this indicator console? I
Um,
mean,
the updating
there are
time.
there are temporal series, there are trends that are described and could be used also to monitor the implementation of the regional strategy. No?
Yeah, there are already temporal series for some of these indicators, but the real problem is that these indicators now need to respond and to characterize specific sustainable development goals. So they need to be used to describe specific achievement of sustainable development goals. The frequency of their update will need to be at least an annual update, such as the land consumption, land take report that the ISPRA makes every year, in order to have a real framework, a real perception of how these dynamics change and how and where they are going. Also considering the efforts that need to be undertaken by local authorities.
Okay, okay. I think that next time probably we can see also the representation of the analytical aspects in a specific area in order to describe also the effectiveness, no, of such field.
Yeah,
Thank you all of you, to all presenters. We are almost on time, so thank you for your contribution, and I hope to see you all in presence next year in the next six. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Good afternoon, Rita. Do you hear me?
Yes, of course, I have your voice. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Can I ask in how many minutes do we start this session?
I think session will start in 7 minutes.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Lucia.
Hi.
And hello, everyone that I see in Colibri.
Hello.
Okay, 10 minutes and we will start.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Federico.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. And thank you to join us for this workshop.
Thank you. Thank you.
Federico, sorry,
Yeah.
will you present the contribution for your group?
Yeah. I do.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, are there any other speakers for this session apart Sara and maybe Anna Maria
Or
and
Emilio?
Federico?
Me, Emilio.
Okay.
Everyone.
And Lorena, maybe there are
Yes, we
other three contribute?
no, we have the two contribution for Move 2 with Emilio Marziali and Sara Pietrangeli.
Okay.
For the other workshop, here we have Federico Stara that present the first contribution, and maybe we don't have authors for, oh, maybe, yes, Vanessa Assuma. Good afternoon. Nice to meet you. Do you present the contribution for your group?
Yes, I'm the speaker.
Okay. Maybe now.
I don't know if we have to wait. Oh no, we can start.
Yes, I think it's possible to start, but we now we don't have speakers for the last contribution. But maybe I hope that someone join us during the workshop. So I think it's possible to start.
Yes.
Okay.
The technical assistant says maybe
yes,
we can start. Yes, we can start.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to coordinate this workshop, even if in a virtual way. And by the program, we will have contributions from two different workshops, Move 2 and Semlum. Now I see connected only Lucia that organized with me, and Alessandro Marucci, Francesco Nzullo, and Angela Pilogallo the first workshop, Move 2, but I don't see other colleagues for the workshop Semlum. I hope that these other colleagues join us during the presentation. But I think it's time to start. So we start this session with the Move 2 models and indicators for assessing and measuring the urban settlement development in the view of zero net land take by 2050, organized by me and the other colleagues that I already listed. And this workshop is in its third year in ICCSA conference, and it primarily focused on low density settlements and new urban transformation dynamics. And in particular on the analysis of policies and guidelines to manage, control, and limit the land take, with a focus to the future perspectives in view of the achievement in Agenda 2030, with particular attention in the development of specific indicators for assessing the sustainability of territorial transformations. And in this context, urban regeneration represents an opportunity, even considering the global challenges ahead and ongoing, the climate change. And its complex and integrated processes respect to various dimensions on well-being, security for citizens, including the environmental, social, and economic aspects. So I'm asking Lucia if she would like to add other consideration or comment about this workshop before we begin with the scheduled presentations?
Yes, I'm very happy to join us for this session for the third year of this conference. And I'm sorry that this year we are in virtual version, but maybe in the next year
We are all in virtual way.
we are all in virtual, yes. And so we have to enjoy this session.
Thank you. So let's go with the first presentation, entitled Planning Without Shared Strategies, Impacts and Perspectives Along the Abruzzo-Adriatic Coastal Belt. And I think that this contribution is presented by Emilio Marziali.
Yes, good morning.
Okay. Good morning.
And good afternoon.
Okay, I see the
You see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
You can start. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Good morning and good afternoon. I'm Emilio Marziali, a PhD student of the University of L'Aquila, and I'm going to present to you the Planning Without Shared Strategies, Impacts and Perspective along the Abruzzo-Adriatic Coast Belt. My tutor is Francesco Anzullo, and the other colleagues that collaborate for this work are Anna Maria Felli and Chiara Gattani. To begin with, the current situation in the Italian regulatory landscape on soil protection and limiting land consumption has been analyzed. Italy has an updated national law complemented by regional and provincial land management laws with numerous technical and administrative peculiarities. Thus, the issues of land use provides a clear example of how the absence of comprehensive national framework law leads to a proliferation of regulations, creating ambiguities and uncertainty based on regional boundaries. The situation keeps far from achieving the zero land take 2050 goals, which are the zero net land consumption by 2050, aligning the consumption with actual population growth by 2030, and non-negative balance of land degradation by 2030. For the international situation, we have a different mode where proactive measures are being taken to combat soil degradation and promote sustainable urban development. For example, Germany with energy efficient, France pursues the ambitious goal of zero artificial development by 2050, and Spain prioritizes urban rehabilitation. Now we are going to see the municipal situation, and the case of Abruzzo in particular, within the Italian territorial planning system plays a fundamental role in the understanding future settlement development. However, what is countered are, for example, synoptic and heterogeneous description of various land use types, complexity in the articulation of building regulations, and administrative limits of a single municipality. There is a high latent consumption in the plan that has not yet been implemented, and realizing this could change the current situation favorably. Moreover, most Italian regions are addressing land consumption issues with their own methods and strategies without aligning with the zero net land take goals that Italy aims to achieve by 2030. This approach proposed by this study to overcome this limitation is to compile a mosaic of municipal urban planning tools in the area of interest, and which, as we will see, can make a significant contribution to achieve zero net land take. Regarding the objective of this study, we have to analyze the first kilometer coast strip, as street is the most affected by urban phenomena related to maritime economies, as also shown by the recent studies. Show what the new layout of this area could be based on the prevision of the current municipal planning transformation and instruments, and simplification of transformative typologies in urban plans PTM, and the new coastal zone management strategy that we can see as a new level of strategic planning. For the case study, the area that we analyze is chosen for a lot of reasons, and is the coast. Specifically, is the Adriatic coast stretch of the Abruzzo region, Italy. This choice is linked to the environmental and ecological significance characterization for this territory, as well as the fact that 70% of regional land consumption is concentrated along the coast. On the table, we can see some of the most important characteristics of the area. I mention only one or two of these, the most important, like the economy of this area, because it's very significant. For example, almost all the municipalities analyzed have a population of 10,000 inhabitants. The flat formation is very important because with low sandy beaches that can favor the settlements, and there are the 19 municipalities in this area that we study. For regarding the adopted methodology, using specific techniques, the residual plan was reconstructed, and progress status compared to the projection in the plans was quantified as a percentage. This method proves highly advantageous, facilitating the formulation of policies by individual entities and supporting strategy and planning aimed to the protection and conservation of coastal environments. As we can see from the figure 2, an angular view of the analyzed study area, illustrating the mosaic of planning instruments classified according to described macro categories that we can see in the table. In figure 2a, we have zoomed in the view of the study as shows the various macro categories, providing a detailed overview of their spatial distribution. In figure 2b, there are illustrated the current urbanized area in building in black, roads in green, and roads in gray, and the public area in green. In a figure, the last figures, that is the figure 2c, highlight the so-called residual urban potential, representing the area of the urban plan that has not yet been implemented. Now we can see the first interesting result obtained, as shown in figure 1 on the left, was designed to provide an overview of land consumption trend in coastal municipalities compared to the entire region, highlighting both of the absolute amount land consumption and the percentage contribution of coastal municipalities. We observe a generally consistent trend in land consumption, with fluctuation ranging from 2.68 square kilometers per year to 1.40. The representation is in hectares and in percentage to highlight the absolute quantity and contribution of coastal municipalities. And as we said previously, in the 19 coastal municipalities, the 70% of regional intake that we have. And the second figure is a distribution of urban planning concentrated within the first kilometer of the coast. And we can see the macro categories with their percentage. For the second result, that is also interesting, we can observe from the following image where the municipal level analysis reveals peculiarities, and in this case we see in this graph that is a distribution of macro categories that we mentioned earlier. The municipal peculiarities, like in Francavilla, where the residential area almost all and 70% of the productive tourist areas within the first kilometers, Pineto with 90% the areas allocated to the services with the first kilometers. And this is important in the image that we see. The order for the municipalities is from the north to south in latitudinal direction. And as I said, Pineto in the 90% of the area allocated to services with the first kilometers, followed by Francavilla, and distribution of the three main categories of destination, Martinsicuro and Vasto. 14% of the destination concentrated in the first kilometer in these two municipalities, and Martinsicuro, Vasto, Ortona, and Pescara has the same situation, but the particularity of these municipalities is that have the most important parts of the region, and then the plan are influenced from it. In the second image, the distribution of consumer land in the municipalities with a focus of the first kilometers, and we can see in black the settled area on the first kilometers away from the coastline, and in the light gray the settled area of remaining part of the municipalities, and the final are the area to the remaining part of the plan. And we can see some percentage of the distribution. For example, the 37% of the macro categories are designed for the productive tourism purpose. That is an important data that we can see after. And the final result of this research, of this study, is regarding the trend of the residual urban potential in the municipalities of the Abruzzo coast. For the three macro categories that we see in this color, in order: green for facilities macro category, orange productive tourist macro category, and the residential macro category. We can see that the curve of the facilities macro category has a similar trend for all the coastal municipalities, with a slight increase in Vasto and San Salvo, that is the final part of in the southern part of the region of Abruzzo. For the productive and tourist macro category, we can see a high availability in the first section, especially in Alba Adriatica, decrease between Pineto and Montesilvano, and the increase with a new peak between Rocca San Giovanni and Torino di Sangro, values around 28%. In the end, residential macro category values below 16% for most of the coastal sector, from Tortoreto to Ortona, that we can see on the right part of the graph, and the new decrease in Vasto and San Salvo with values below 70%. Now we are going to say what the work carried out demonstrated that an approach to planning lacking a system vision attributable to short sheets policies and lack of uniform perspectives. An high decision-making power of municipality in urban transformation leads to an overestimation of transformation projection observed in all studies municipalities. And I said previously that the economy is important and the tourism is important for these municipalities, because this is a decision-making. This important decision-making for these municipalities is a contribution for a bad planification. And the coastal defense plan intervenes only in response to already occurred damages without implementing preventive measures and without directly addressing coastal land consumption in these impacts. Only the way of the erosion is calculated in this coastal defense. And the region, as the supervisory authority, lacks sufficient influence of local planning, especially at the level of the individual municipalities. This lack of coordination underscored the importance of this work and of the physiographic units as a method to preserve the coast. And in conclusion, is evident that the synthesis employed through both basic and advanced mosaic techniques allows for effective comparability among municipalities, and we mean mosaic techniques allow highly effective comparability among different municipalities. And the strategic territorial scale operates on a strategic territorial scale is not at any municipal level, where awareness of transformation is neighboring areas is lacking. The advanced mode of PTMs is crucial for implementing future land consumption containment policies, and the essential to respond to pressure from the European bodies and national and international sustainable policies that the Italy have to reach in 2030 and not 2050, and the need for a strategic framework. It's necessary to avoid generic or contradictory design schemes without an overall strategic framework like that represented by the PTM. Thanks for the attention.
Thank you, Emilio, for this interesting contribution. Any questions or comments?
Lorena, I have a comment.
Okay.
Thank you, Emilio, for this presentation, which is completely in line with the Move to Zero session. And in Italy, but also in other countries, the land take of coastal area depends on completely different factors from that of inland area, for example. And for example, it's very much driven by tourism. And my suggestion, this is not a question, it's just a consideration. It will be interesting to understand what is the relationship between the increase in tourism and the increase in land take in the coastal area, the direct relationship, because in my opinion, there is a direct and important relationship. So this is just a suggestion, but probably this could be a further another work to deep.
Yeah, it's true. It's true because we see that in the planification, the municipality has this interest to improve the tourist and improve the coastal area urbanized. Then this is important to analyze for me too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions?
Thank you.
No. Okay, we continue with the second presentation entitled Investigating Avalanche Risk Impact on Accommodation Facilities in the Municipalities of Abruzzo Region, presented by Sara Pietrangeli.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
Can
you share
yeah.
presentation?
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
So I'm Sara Pietrangeli from the Department of Civil Architectural Construction and Environmental Engineering for the University of L'Aquila. And today I will present you the work titled Investigating Avalanche Risk Impact on Accommodation Facilities in the Municipality of Abruzzo Region, developed in collaboration with Donatella Guisa, Lorena Fiorini, and Lucia Saganeti. This is a work part of my PhD research in spatial dynamics and local planning in the context of avalanche risk, supervised by Professor Alessandro Marucci from the University of L'Aquila, in particular the research group of Centro Planeco, in collaboration also with the Regional Civil Protection Agency and in particular with the Office of Avalanches, Forest, Fires and Anthropic Risk. The project has different aims, highlighting the importance of considering natural hazard in the process of urban planning, and in particular in this case the avalanche hazard that is the topic of the work. The not secondary goal to provide a technical support to the work to the Regional Civil Protection Agency in order to underline this close interconnection between the field of scientific research and the field of territorial protection to search new solutions to make a territory more resilient to risks, and also the relevance of spatial data and their production and collection. So avalanches are events that affect many countries on a global scale. as we can see in the map, where in red are represented the avalanche events. So it's clear that it's not a phenomenon limited to Italy, but it's equally true that some countries are more affected by this natural hazard than others. And why? Because these avalanche events depend on different factors, and also the avalanche scenarios change in function of the characteristic of the event, the localization, and also the human present level in a territory. So these elements are part of those factors that contribute to the definition of risk, namely the hazard, the exposure, and the vulnerability. So the level of risk is not constant over time, but we have a variability due to the effect of socioeconomical and also environmental drivers, such as the climate change, that act on the level of hazard, and also the urban expansion in avalanche-prone areas, or the winter mountain tourism that increase this demand for facilities and infrastructures that act on the factor exposure. So the intensification of the exposure level and also the extreme events more extreme in terms of frequency and strength can increase the avalanche risk levels, resulting in the occurrence of catastrophes. In this case, the study area covered the 30 municipalities of the Gran Sasso e Monti della Laga National Park, included in the Abruzzo region, because this park has a wide territory in 3 different regions of central Italy. And in particular, the 84.4% of the park is located inside the Abruzzo region. So in this central picture, it's possible to see the 40 municipalities separated by provinces. And this is a mountainous area, so it's a great attraction for mountain tourism. For this last reason, the work is focused on the influence of the exposure factor in the definition of avalanche risk. In particular, in relation to the winter mountain tourism that caused this increase in the demand of facilities and infrastructure. So the aim of this, the methodology developed was to build the risk scenarios for the identification of hotspots in terms of exposure and avalanche risk. First data collected was about the accommodation facilities with the information about the municipality of origin, the address, and also the number of bedrooms, bed, and bathrooms. In particular, the number of beds, it will be very important information during the analysis. The Excel file was converted in a geolocalized point shape file due to the use of the QGIS software, following the steps on the flow diagram. In particular, a manual correction was needed to correct the errors generated by the automatic geolocalization through the use, to the complementary use of search engines, geographical internet services, and also digital travel assistance services, and also the individuation of criticalities such as overlay of different points, because each point represents an accommodation facility. Or changing the name of these facilities. So this validation and correction of the result was fundamental. And the result is shown in this picture where the facilities are divided, are represented in different color based on the province of origin. The second data is represented by the avalanche site localization, and this information is available on the avalanche hazard location map developed by the Regional Civil Protection Agency. This is a map that represents the avalanche sites and not the individual avalanches, as we can see in this little picture, because an avalanche site can include avalanches from different periods of time. So the next step was the creation of the density raster map of accommodation facilities, starting from this point vector layer and use the kernel density estimation. So at this point, the process is divided into two parts, because it's possible to choose the attribute to use for creating the density map. In this case, the location of accommodation facilities and the number of beds, in order to create two different preliminary risk scenarios, the static and the dynamic one. The static is based on the presence of accommodation facilities, as we can see in this picture, the presence of the number of the accommodation facilities in an area. The second one is based on the presence and flows of user. In particular, it was built from the consideration of the number of beds in each facility. So the darker color indicates the increase in this density value. In the first heat map, we have the highest density value for the city of L'Aquila, but also significant values for the municipality of Santo Stefano di Sessani and Castel del Monte. While changing the choose weight, in this case the number of beds, some other points light up, as we can see, like the municipality of Pietracamela and also the municipality of Rocca Santa Maria. Which is the result? Overlaying this density map of the dynamic risk scenario with the avalanche map, some hotspots in terms of exposure are identified. For example, in this case, we have the case of Fonte Cerreto in the municipality of L'Aquila, and in this case, Prato di Tivo, that is a locality in the municipality of Pietracamela, that are both located inside the national park and also characterized by this high value for the density, for the density, and both of them are inside avalanche prone areas, as we can see in the map, because in purple it's possible to see the avalanche sites individuated with field survey. So if we use this resulting map of the interferences as an input data, it could be possible to create the risk scenarios, changing the exposure level according to the assumed occupancy percentage for the facilities, because we have also the information about the type of the facilities and this number of beds. So we can assume, for example, the maximum, the medium, or the half percentage to build these scenarios in terms of exposure. So which aspects are relevant in this study? We can start with the necessity to have the constant updating of the dataset and database, especially in these frequented avalanche-prone areas that are often not available or updated because these are marginal areas. And the possibility to collect this data through the use of the Internet of Things and also the artificial intelligence. About the dynamic approach, this approach has to overcome the static one, the traditional one, that not consider population flow or the climate change, for example, and in general, the spatio-temporal variability of risk that is important to consider in order to realize a good risk management. About mountain areas, we have this marginal area, so it's important to have to study this interaction between the exposure and the avalanche hazard in fragmented territories. In this case, we have considered 40 municipalities with different approach to the risk management, and in this case, avalanche hazard. It's important to evaluate the vulnerability that is partly represented by the presence of natural heritage and natural parks. The exposure that increase due to the increase of the demand of facilities and infrastructure, and also the number of people accommodated, the needing of a multi-risk analysis, because mountain areas are also affected by hydrogeological, hydraulic, seismic hazard, and also landslides. So a multi-risk analysis is necessary, and knowing the urban and infrastructure assets in relation to the risk. Why this aspect is fundamental, we can start with saving human lives is always the main objective for risk reduction and mitigation. We have the Sustainable Development Goals. This work want to create a replicable methodology to do this maps of interference that we can use as input data for deeper analysis, in particular for the developing of risk maps. Supporting policymakers to act and plan transformation in these vulnerable areas. And at last but not least, knowing the building and infrastructure pattern, it's important because they determine the increase of people in restricted areas like the mountain one, and because they lead an exponential increase in the avalanche risk level. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sarah. Obviously, I know this work, and I would like to add only a few comments regarding the importance of having availability for data of this nature, because actually usually are not so common to have data respect to the geolocalization of facilities and other, because this kind of data are important to develop analysis concerning especially the exposure factor. Okay, any questions for Sarah or comments?
Lorena, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is not a question because I am also author of this contribution, but it's just an additional point, an additional consideration, because this presentation apparently would appear to be a little bit off topic in relation to this session, but in reality, the research is completely transversal to the theme of lane take and also urban dispersion. In fact, the avalanche risk is assessed on the basis of the anthropic presence in Piedmont context that are often characterized by strong urban dispersion, and this urban dispersion generates a more serious lane take respect to the compact urban area. So for this reason, it's important. This contribution is important for this session. Thank you, Sarah, for the presentation.
Thank you, you're welcome.
I also would like to say thank you to Sarah for the very interesting presentation, and just a comment question, something to, I don't know, reflect together. And you showed us a lot of the importance and the theme, how the theme of avalanche is very common and in different ways in the different part of the world. But then you show us a very specific case study. I refer to the fact that the area of this research is a very interesting and very specific case, because it is also a park. And it is not the only one in Abruzzo, we know. It is only one of others, and but it is very interesting interesting and particular case because for the protected areas, for the fact that it is very specific as case study also for the different configuration we can find in it. And so the question reflection is about the if you think this kind of methodology is also usable in other contexts, if you already have an idea of some differences and applications. I don't know, a question like this, if you already think about that. Thank you again.
Thank you for your question. Yes, I think that this methodology is really replicable, but this is a specific context, so we analyze all the factors of the risk. So we can start with the hazard, but also the vulnerability represented in part by the presence of the national park and also the natural heritage. And the exposure in this case in terms of accommodation facilities. If we analyze other part of the world, other location, we have to consider the change in these factors. So it's really important to know the characteristic of the area, also at meteorological level, because we have to know the characteristic of the avalanche, the vulnerability of the territory, but also the exposure. So we know that risk analysis is necessary when we have a level of exposure different than zero, because our aim is saving human life.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? No? Okay. We finished the contribution for the first workshop, and now we continue with the contributions submitted for the workshop socioeconomic and environmental models for land use management. I look if there are any colleagues from this workshop, but no. Okay. This work, Vanessa?
Yes, I'm here. Do you?
Yes. I refer to the organizer of this workshop.
Okay. Sorry.
Yes,
I have seen at the beginning one of the co-chair, but then she's disconnected, so I don't know. I have no contact with her.
Okay, I continue with the coordination of this workshop, organized by Deborah Anelli, Pierluigi Morano, Benedetto Manganelli, and Francesco Paolo del Giudice, University of Bari, Basilicata, and La Sapienza, Rome. This workshop focuses mainly on environmental pollution, industrial polluting sites, health impact assessment, urban regeneration, urban policy, land use management, and so on. Okay, I think it's possible to start with the first presentation. Federico Stara.
Yes.
Yes, he's here.
Thank you, Lorena.
Yes, with the contribution with the title A Systematic Analysis of the Scientific Literature on the Relationships between Urban Redevelopment Initiatives and Property Market Dynamics. Sorry.
Thank you again, Lorena. Good morning, everyone from Rome, and good afternoon, Hanoi. My name is Federico Stara. I am a PhD student at Sapienza University of Rome at the Department of Architecture and Project. Before starting, I would like to thank the professors Francesco Tajani, Pierluigi Morano, and Felicia Di Liddo, who wrote with me this article. Sorry, okay. This research addresses the significant and current issue of urban regeneration. It involves a systematic literature review of 50 contributions focused on analyzing the relationship between urban redevelopment initiatives and property market dynamics. The study examines how urban redevelopment impacts of real estate mechanism, including property values and market dynamics, and how market trends influence urban transformation processes. The research aims to provide an intermediate step in analyzing the relevant literature focused on the dual perspective of how the relationship between urban projects and real estate market dynamics can be treated. Urban regeneration policies are crucial strategies for transforming and developing urban areas, generally starting from community needs, property valorization, and public space renewal operations generate positive effects by attracting new activities and investments, leading to improvements in urban quality. The implications of urban transformation on the real estate markets are closely linked to activity and integrated economic layout capable of promoting actions related to sectors other than construction, like mobility infrastructure, public services, and tertiary sector and production, in a more holistic vision of the urban system and its components. In this sense, if appropriately oriented and realized, urban regeneration initiatives enable effective and perceptive relationship between urban, territorial, and landscape policy and planning, aimed to revitalizing the territory from the perspective of environmental, social, and economic sustainability. The urban redevelopment initiatives allow the definition of effective and participatory relationship among politics, the main place for decision, and urban, territorial, and landscape planning, aimed at the successful relaunch of the territory in the perspective of the three sustainability pillars. Among the affected economic sector, the real estate sector assumes a fundamental role as a proxy variable of the appreciation in potential buyers and inventors for the existing building stock near to the urban pole, the market values. In the real estate market, the trend of selling and rental prices is significantly influenced by the specificities of the urban area in which the property is located, and the possible existence of close disabilities has negative impacts of the market demands for the area, which, as mentioned, is reflecting the market values. It should be highlighted that beyond the collective and potential inventors interested in intervening on urban territories with the specific and effective recovery initiatives, a direct economic advantages for all properties owners in the neighboring areas is supporting redevelopment initiatives is attested. The existing relationship between the implementation of initiatives aimed at the recovery and the used asset and or degraded sites and the relationship of opportunities connected to such operation in terms of increasing urban prosperity and quality of life, is part of more complex process in which the advantages for all interested parties are numerous. The outcomes of effective territorial transformation strategies translate, first of all, into preventing the trigger or continuation of urban tissue deterioration by improving the physical, economic and social infrastructure, generating new jobs, increasing the market values of near properties. The methodology implemented for the systematic analysis of scientific contribution of the relationship between urban regeneration and real estate market dynamics involved defining target keywords and their combination. The keywords we used include urban regeneration, urban transformation project, territorial interpretation, real estate market, property prices, rental prices, residential market dynamics, real estate trends, and the relationship between market and regeneration. The primary databases used for their selection of contribution were Scopus, Web of Science, and Google Scholar. Papers were selected based on their relevance to the research topic and analyzed to understand their goals, outputs, and their relationship between urban redevelopment and property market dynamics. We have three different key findings. The first one is the impact of urban redevelopment of real estate markets. The second one, the influence of market trends on urban redevelopment. At the least, the directional relationship between urban redevelopment and real estate market dynamics. For the first topic, the urban redevelopment projects generally have a positive effect on surrounding the real estate market mechanism. These projects often lead to increased property values, higher market visibility, and enhance the local economic activities. The regeneration of public spaces and the improvement of the structure play a significant role in boosting property values and attracting investment, thereby stimulating the local real estate market. Urban redevelopment inevitably determines a redefinition of market values of the property located in the area in which the transformation initiatives is carried out. The benefit deriving from the realization of urban development projects, in fact, do not only concern the increase of the life quality of the citizens, but also the properties enhancement in the redeveloped territory. In this sense, the regeneration determines a significant economic impact of the surrounding building tissue and on the new area potential and potentialities, and in light of the possible territorial changes that can be triggered through the planning, the redevelopment projects, the projection of the future market unitary prices, and of analyzing the effects on the existing asset values. For the second topic, the market's dynamics, such as transaction volumes, property prices, rental rates, and supply-demand trends, significantly influence urban transformation processes and decision-making. Understanding market trends helps urban planners and policymakers align redevelopment initiatives with current market conditions, ensuring the feasibility and success of projects. Therefore, among the different strategies for renovating the public and private property stocks, the examination of the local market trends, the modalities in which the market trends influence the urban transformation processes. And for the third and the last topic, the relationship between the urban redevelopment and the real estate market dynamics is bidirectional. While redevelopment projects impact market conditions, prevailing market trends also shape the nature and scope of redevelopment initiatives. Effective urban regeneration requires an understanding of this bidirectional relationship to create a sustainable and impactful project. In figure 1, the two main perspectives explain in the relationship between the market and the urban redevelopment are shown, and the double linkage that is established between them in terms of cause and effect is highlighted by the double direction that introduced arrow. In this sense, different authors have carried out an ex-ante and ex-post evaluation of the possible or already obtained application that the urban renewal project generated on local real estate market. The study highlights the positive effect of urban regeneration on real estate markets, emphasizing the importance of aligning redevelopment initiatives with community needs and regulatory provisions. Effective urban redevelopment increases local market attractiveness and property values, contributing to overall urban quality improvement. However, such initiatives carry implicit risks, necessitating robust evaluation models to guide decision-making process and ensure the feasibility and success of urban projects. The study underscores the need for comprehensive planning and strategic alignment between urban regeneration policies and the real estate market dynamics to achieve sustainable and urban transformation. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Federico. Any questions?
I have some question.
Okay.
Thank you, Federico, for your presentation. And I have some different questions. First, what will be the next step in your research? And the other are just curiosity or consideration, because I don't understand very well whether this literature review was only qualitative or also analytical. For example, how did you do this literature review? Did you use a specific software, for example, bibliometrics or other, or is just a qualitative review by reading all the paper and project and the other? Because, for example, the use of the analytical software could be useful to help to make an analytical contribution to this analysis. Maybe, I don't know.
Thank you for your question, Lucia. The first one is the beginning of my research in PhD study. I will create a mathematical model to increase my study to give to our politician or our intenditor the importance of this work. The second one, we research in 1,000, I think 1,000 contributions of in internet databases and university databases like Google Scholar, and we approach this work to do a pre-intermediate research to comprehend to analyze this topic.
Okay, thank you. So my suggestion is to try to make the same analysis also with a specific software that could be
Also,
very useful. But it's just a suggestion.
yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Federico, and thank you, Lucia, for this suggestion. The next presentation is about assessing the value of cultural landscapes through the integration of biophysical economic valuation, risk assessment, and cost-benefit analysis. And it will be presented by Vanessa Summa.
Thank you for the introduction. Let's share the screen just a moment. Do you see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Vanessa Summa. I'm a senior assistant professor on economic appraisal and planning evaluation at the Department of Architecture of the University of Bologna. This contribution is focused on a part of an ongoing research project on the increase of the resiliency of cultural landscapes in Europe. Particularly, this contribution focuses on the development of a preliminary integrated assessment framework to assess the value of coastal cultural landscapes under risk and climate change scenarios. In this sense, my colleague and I have developed two literature reviews in order to better support the design of this integrated framework. And the literature reviews focus on the ecosystem services with the risk assessment, whereas the second one is more focused on the landscape economics and cost-benefit analysis. Who are the final users for this contribution? Not only our research project, but particularly environmental engineers and urban planners that could integrate biophysical and economic valuations with landscape conservation, disaster risk reduction measures, and last but not least, public bodies that could better understand cultural landscapes value and be better informed on implications caused by natural hazards. This is the structure that I'm going to present. I would like to start from the framing of the problem in order to give you a better explanation of what are the pillars of our integrated assessment framework. So we have started from the official definitions of cultural landscapes by UNESCO and the general definition landscape by Florence Chart. And we have made a subdivision. What type of cultural landscape? We have focused on those organically evolved by the World Heritage Committee, and then we have further provided a subdivision into those landscapes with extraordinary factors, and so those express the outstanding universal value that belongs to all communities of the world. For example, Langeroar and Monferrato, or the winemaking regions, and so on. And those landscapes that are characterized by ordinary factors. And so those territories with similar characteristics, but not enough to be included in the humanities heritage. Independently from this subdivision, all cultural landscapes express a complex value, including the scenic and aesthetic, social, cultural, and economic. And climate change has amplified the need for adapting cultural landscapes value to uncertainty caused by both natural and human-induced hazards. In order to frame this problem, we have taken into account the concept of resilience. And as you know, this paradigm has only recently been taken into account for assessing and also planning cultural landscape and other territorial issues. And what is the advantage to include the resilience paradigm within a cultural landscapes framework? Of course, this could increase in the knowledge and the preparedness of decision makers and of local community to damages or losses to landscapes value components. In fact, for what concern the shocks and disturbances in coastal cultural landscapes, I have put here some relevant examples where we can consider the combination of more hazards. For example, the earthquake and the tsunami in the Messina Strait. And today we have a continuing and evolving landscape. Or again, flood and landslides in the 50s in the Calabria Boroughs. We have today some fossil boroughs without the opportunity to revitalize inner and marginal areas. Or one more recent event happened in the Aleppo city in Turkey. So at the beginning of the millennium, Aleppo was an Islamic capital of culture, and now what is the current scenario is a warring scenario, but however a continuing landscape, not necessarily evolving together a positive value transformation. The second pillar of the framework is the ecosystem services framework. In fact, as you know, ecosystem services has triggered relevant results in environmental and social sciences, and more recently also in urban and territorial planning, as well as strategic environmental impact assessment procedures with landscaping implications. So what are the advantages of sure understanding the potential impact of the climate change over cultural landscape and their ecosystem services, together with the changing values? And finally, the third and last pillar of our framework is the role of the integrated assessment. And here we have many advantages, starting from the understanding, the evaluation, the cultural landscape's value and vulnerability, the design of decision support tools for policies and measure design, considering the potential effect of instabilities in the scheduling, the time and the financial flows concerning plans, programs and projects, and the assessment tools more intuitive and flexible for decision makers that could be also replicable at various phases of the assessment process. Starting from this context, we have developed parallelly two literature review, which are characterized by a fil rouge of a set of general criteria. We have used the same database for, at the moment, only Scopus, with the intention to expand with additional data sources such as Web of Science, the same reference period, so at the beginning of the millennium until nowadays. The type of publication are mainly scientific papers and language mainly English. So we have developed two literature review parallelly by including some specific queries. Concerning the ecosystem services framework with risk assessment, at the first round, we have included the ecosystem services risk assessment and cultural landscapes by limiting the results only to 5 contributions. But if we omit the keyword cultural landscape, we have a good and reasonable number of results. In fact, at this point, the 55 papers were selected, the half amount, according to the objective of our work, the publication type, and the different language. For what concern the landscape economics side, we had a different limitation. First of all, the literature on cultural landscape and economic value is consolidated nowadays. In fact, we have obtained 39 results, but if we include the risk assessment keyword, the results are further reduced to 3 results, and if we combine resilience instead of risk assessment, we obtain 11 results. However, then we have added additional queries, and for what concern the integration of economic financial tools such as a cost-benefit analysis, we have no results about the assessment of cultural landscapes under risk and climate change scenarios. So this is a gap that can be filled with potentially with this framework. By the way, this parallel literature review allowed us to identify the interlinkages between the two disciplinary areas. Concerning the ecosystem services with the risk analysis, I have not time to comment each study, but it's very important to underline that for the literature review on ecosystem services with the risk assessment is evident the multi-hazard approach in the evaluation. So taking into account, for example, the hydrometeorological hazard, temperature and droughts in some cases, and integrating the cultural ecosystem services. For other studies, for example, the role of the integration between the ecosystem services assessment with the vulnerability one, or having the climate risk assessment in Natura 2000 sites by integrating the normative standard of ISO 140 and 90 together, the stakeholder participation, or the integration, the habitat risk assessment model from the INVEST tool to develop a vulnerability analysis on the coastal ecosystem, and so on. Moving to the landscape economics literature review, it's quite relevant to start from the total economic value paradigm, since cultural landscape is a public good, and the third paradigm favor the assessment of its value into monetary and non-monetary way. Starting from the first Scopus query, we have detected a dishomogeneous distribution in exploring the values dimension of the cultural landscape. For example, since the 80s, the environmental value is the most explored one against the social value and the economic values, even if was the last investigated since the 90s until nowadays, and give back only 39 contribution. Then moving on the integration of the economic financial tool within the cultural landscape assessment, we had the need for grouping the methodologies of the several contribution found according to consistency classes. For example, if the contribution is classified as having a low consistency, this means that the contribution is focused only on one type of economic assessment. For example, in this case, current and Nepal, okay, have in the context of disaster climate change, have developed only survey and interviews without integrating the monetary analysis, for example, with a cost-benefit analysis. Or by contrast, the contribution has developed a cost-benefit analysis, but this did not include calculation, for example, of a composite index evaluation, or even questionnaires, regression analysis, so are only focused on a type of economic evaluation. And when the contribution is classified as good, this means that they are able to promote an integrated assessment with both the sides, monetary, and in certain cases by including also the hard modeling. What are the main findings? The commonalities that have been detected are closely related to the outcome. The selected studies are finalized to provide solutions to decision makers to contrast one single risk or more risks. But there are also some imbalances. One is related to the value between the economic value cultural landscapes and the other dimensions, confirmed by few and recent results. Another imbalance is on the object between cultural landscape, mainly with extraordinary characteristics, and the other types of landscapes. The location, the most important part, okay, of the publications found are mainly addressed to the global south countries and few studies for the global north. And finally, on the risk, the trend of these studies is a single risk based or referred to disasters caused by climate change. No multi-hazard approach or black swan are considered. And according to these findings, this was important for us to design the preliminary version of our framework, structured into 3 macro phases that follow the classical environmental impact assessment, the ex ante, in itinere, and ex post. In the ex ante phase, we have focused on the ecosystem services and the services analysis, together the integration of the hazard and vulnerability within this assessment. Parallelly, the development of a survey in order to elicit the preferences of local communities with respect to the increase of the resilience of the cultural landscape through the estimation, the willingness to pay or the willingness to accept for an improvement or for receiving an economic contribution for a damage or a loss through the multiple regression analysis. In the itinere phase, concerning the ecosystem services side, there is the invest modeling in order to integrate the state-of-the-art condition, together mitigation and compensation measures identified within the ongoing research project, in order to provide a refinement of measures. On the right side, for the socioeconomic affordability, there is the development of a cost-benefit analysis and the related redditivity index, and so the net present value, internal rate of return, the cost-benefit ratio, concluding with a risk analysis. And so what if scenario logic. The outputs of the ecosystem service framework and the cost-benefit analysis will be integrated within, at the moment, a risk matrix in order to evaluate causes and consequences, to determine the risk acceptability and communicate the results to the stakeholders previously engaged, in order to promote the management and the overcoming of specific risks. The final and ending part, once the plan or project will be implemented, a set of KPI indicators will be monitored periodically in order to achieve objectives, to monitor the standards, and better implementing the policies. What are the advantages and the disadvantages detected? As pros, we have identified interlinkages between the disciplinary areas. There is a high potential to include this framework and obviously refined within the multi-level interoperable platform of the project. The framework, even if now is addressed to a specific cultural landscape in the coastal areas of Europe, this has the potential to be replicated and extended to additional cultural landscapes typologies. As disadvantages, when there are many methodological difficulties in estimating the cost of cultural landscapes adaptation. There is today a limited knowledge and data gathering on adaptation measures, helpful to estimate the redditivity indices to compare the cultural landscape's value before and after a transformation. What are our future perspectives? First of all, the application of this framework to pilot case studies to test the reliability. A survey will explore the cultural landscape's value perception by local community by estimating the willingness to pay and the willingness to accept. Then the willingness to pay will be integrated within the contingent valuation method or an hedonic price method. This depends on the site-specific characteristics of the investigated landscape, and extending the boundaries of the framework to other disciplinary fields, such as the history and conservation, or cultural heritage and landscape, but also hydrogeology, sustainable planning, and architecture and building production will further consolidate the framework for its inclusion within a multi-level interoperable platform. Thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you, Vanessa. I appreciate the clear analysis done about these complex values of cultural landscapes and the potential implications for disaster risk. And I appreciate also the rich literature review. I have no questions, but just a little suggestions, because in my opinion, you can try to highlight the direct and indirect connections between the ecosystem services framework and the 7 targets for about the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, in particular for the monitoring, because I think that this possibility to have indicators and values to monitoring the relationship between this kind of framework, mainly focused on the ecosystem services, with the direct and also indirect connections with other kind of framework, in particular the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, because it's very focused on disaster risk, but also maybe for the sustainable development goals.
Okay, thank you very much for the suggestion.
Any other questions? No one? Okay, if there are no authors of the last scheduled contribution, the use of information systems in the real estate appraisal, maybe no one joined the workshop. So we can close the workshop. Any comments by the audience? No? So I thank you all for participating and for the interesting contributions presented. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
I hope there was another opportunity. There will be another opportunity to see you in presence. Okay. Bye bye.
I hope so.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Rita, for the assistance.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.